Fresh and Fit's Myron Gaines, demonetized, tried a new format where he just basically took Steven Crowder's entire shtick.
And Charlie Kirk's.
And Charlie Kirk's entire shtick, and is now going on college universities and debating people. The sign in front of him says, "Women deserve less. Prove me wrong." So if you guys don't know who this gentleman is, he is one half of the struggling podcast known as Fresh and Fit. He has been, I mean, the sheer meltdown and cope of him on X is really sad. This is next level, complete imploding I've ever seen of any creator, I think, that I can remember. He went full on Nick Fuentes, like not just like anti the Jays, but like anti black people.
Yeah.
And then got called out in an all white nationalist group for being a non-white person in their white space.
Yeah, he was that Dave Chappelle skit.
He was that Dave Chappelle skit. Oh man, yeah, the black white who's blind, except he's not blind. Anyway,
Bigsby.
Clayton Bigsby. So here he finally faces off. He calls them victims. I actually think that he was made to look really bad here because a Christian finally challenged him to his face regarding some of the harmful views that he has been propagating for years. And I thought it was marvelous. So let's jump right into this. Go ahead.
So can I ask a quick synopsis of what you think the prescription is for society today for men?
Which, by the way, whenever I've just debated these folks, I had a debate with Rolo Tomasio on Valuetainment's Money Channel.
Okay.
And Rolo goes out of his way to say how he doesn't make prescriptions. He doesn't give advice to people. He is just telling people about the world as it is. Women are hypergamous. They always want to let the alpha lay and smash and let the beta pay. And they've really created their own version of like total depravity or original sin for women. That becomes like a cult. And so the interesting part is Myron here actually does have prescriptions that he gives to men. And as you'll hear them, they're absolutely poison. Go ahead.
I think they should do to be successful with women.
To be successful with women, okay, are we talking about like getting a girl for a long-term relationship, just to get laid? What are we talking about?
Well, I think the only reason should be for a long-term relationship and marriage. I mean, as Jesus Christ founded it. But I'm just curious what your prescription is.
Come on, somebody.
I've talked about this. I think guys have to have certain things in place, right, before they want to get into a long-term relationship. It's 5 things. So I would say $100K per year, 6 figures a year, 6 months to 1 year of savings.
Okay, hold on. So far, I'm in.
I'm not in.
I mean, I don't know about the 6 figures, but I think 6 months of living expenses is a good thing to have.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think so many people are already starting out in debt, struggling, that if you go, hey man, I really want to make sure that while I'm single and I have all this spare time, I save some money. I think it's good to aspire for a healthy income so that you could provide. Over 70% of
But don't not get married because you don't make 100K.
Yes, don't not get married because, absolutely. But over 70% of working women, not Christian women, not conservative women, working women would have preferred to stay home with the children had they been given the opportunity to.
Come on, somebody.
That is a reality. So I don't have no issues with saying, hey, you need to have a strong income. But if you meet a girl and you're 21 and you haven't developed that, you don't need to not get married. If you haven't, you could build a life together. Me and my wife build a life together, and
IKEA marriage.
We call it IKEA marriage, which I actually, oddly enough, Kevin Samuels, that was his proposal, was either these things or do an IKEA marriage.
Have at least 50 partners, right? Sexual body count.
Unreal. You and me are over here splitting hairs about income.
Nah, forget the income. You need to have 50 bodies.
Oh my. You don't need marriage. You need a therapist.
You need to figure out what's wrong with you and why you are perpetually pleasure chasing.
You need a test. You need to be cleared for STDs.
And you know what the sad part? All the data about this amongst men and women completely falsify this. And again, these guys are super annoying because they'll cherry pick data when it's convenient for them. But the data shows that the more partners you have, I'm not saying God's not beyond this. I'm not saying God can't redeem you. I'm not saying God can't change your heart. But there's more work and you need to count the work. But the more partners you have, the harder it is for you to pair bond between men and women, pair bond in a marriage, and to make a long-term relationship work. Maybe that's because of variety. Maybe that's because of past experiences you're comparing. Maybe that's because something's happening physically. I don't know the why per se, but this is true amongst men and women, though some data suggests that it's a bit more true amongst women. But this is just, it is what it is. No, the number is 50. He recommends 6 figures.
Have six at least.
He was going to tell him to be 6 foot tall.
Yeah. It'd be at least 6'1".
Got to get the surgery on your
on your
shins.
Look like Forrest Gump for at least 2 years.
50 partners. Right.
50, yeah.
50.
I almost don't believe it. I'm like, maybe he's saying 15. Even 15 is crazy.
Sexual body count.
All right, and then
50. The woman like 50.
the last one.
And then there's one more, but that's fine. You could go ahead and
Okay.
engage with what I've said so far.
So the reason I asked that is I've watched almost every single podcast you ever did for about a year and a half. So much so that I bought into a lot of the things that you said. And for about 2 years, it led me astray and significantly damaged my personal life, including relationships.
How did it lead you astray?
Well, you told me to go sleep with a bunch of women and date multiple women at the same time, which I did. And it significantly damaged my life.
Darkness.
That's crazy.
Significantly damages his life. Which, by the way, anyone that goes down this route will clearly figure out that this ain't it.
Hello.
This ain't it. You might have a little bit of fun in the short term. This is not the way you live a life.
Oh, me the chills.
And it wasn't until I actually turned around and started listening to Jesus Christ that I was saved.
Come on.
Now I'm happily married. I have one child now with another one on the way, and I've never felt happier. But I felt...
Congratulations, that's good. That's really good.
Thank you. And I know you're not against that, but my concern is what you're saying to men leads them astray, because I'm a walking example of it. And I think you're significantly damaging people, and especially you're leading people away from morality. Women are not sex objects. Women are created in the image of God, and they are valuable.
Come on.
And they should be treated as such. Why should God give you one of his children if you don't even know how to treat him?
He cooking.
I mean,
He cooking.
that's almost a pickup line.
That's a great
So
line.
I think...
So a question for you. You said you got out there dating and meeting women and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and then you said that it kind of hurt you.
Yeah.
How did it hurt you specifically? Did you like just start? What happened specifically?
Well, I started warring against my own flesh. It's like trying to fill an empty void.
Mm-hmm.
There's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man that can only be filled by God alone. Anything
So here's another way to put it.
Yeah.
Purity and chastity is a great virtue to have. And if you are behaving in a way that is to your lowest primal urges, desires, you're basically behaving the way that a highly evolved animal would behave, which is like, let me spread as much of my semen to as many people as possible.
Wow.
Because of survival of the fittest. And I am nothing more than an animal with instincts. And I just want to smash everything.
You're like a bull getting dropped off with a bunch of cows
Yes.
at a farm for breeding.
You're just going at it, right? Except modern technology allows you to not have to be responsible for having 50 babies because of condoms and, morning after pills and so on and so forth. So,
Get out.
So you are behaving in a way that is actually in contrast with anyone that's self-controlled, that's able to delay gratification. You are trying to just smash as many women as possible as quickly as possible to meet a vanity number.
Yeah.
This is completely contrary to how any man should behave.
else you try to fill with that's not going to satisfy it.
Sure.
And I tried to do it with sex.
Yeah. So, would it be fair? How'd you meet your wife?
We actually had the #1 dating podcast in North and South Carolina called Who Hurt You Podcast.
Okay.
And I'm also friends with Fresh. I know him very well. I texted him before I came here.
Yeah.
And I know pretty much everyone on your crew. But
And yes, chastity is not the same as celibacy because you could be involuntarily celibate. You could be celibate and still be impure. You could be celibate and still be addicted to right? But to be chastity, though, is purity. So when you are pure, that means you are living a life of restraint and you are only channeling your sexual desires for the one spouse that you've committed to for the rest of your life. This is no different than someone that says, hey, I want to get into shape, so I'm going to eat the right amount of protein, the right amount of carbohydrates, the right amount of fats. I have parameters around what I'm putting in my mouth, pause, because I have a specific goal, right? So you don't just eat the Twinkie or the fill in the blank, the most highly caloric, low nutrient dense food just because it's in front of you or just because you don't have any self-control, right? That is not the way anyone builds a life of health in terms of fitness, and that's not how anyone builds a life of health in terms of sexual purity. So that's why I said chastity and purity are great virtues to have, and they're not just they're not the same. They're not the same because you can be a celibate and still be a freak. You could be celibate and still be into some weirdo stuff, and that does not make you pure.
And you actually inspired me to start the podcast, and I realized what I was doing was wrong.
Yeah, so would it be fair to say that when you went through that experience, you were able to identify characteristics that you probably found as unredeemable and you probably wouldn't want to commit to, right?
In what way?
Well, when you were seeing these women, right, you probably started seeing patterns in how they behave, how they speak, or whatever. Maybe they're not qualified to be a wife. Because the thing is, right?
Well, I don't need that. I have the Bible for that. It tells me what to look for.
Yeah, but the thing is that you were able, and again, you're probably not going to notice it, but when you dated and dealt with all these women, you probably were able to identify characteristics that you were not fond of, or characteristics.
You followed my advice, and it actually worked for you, bro, because aren't you happily married with a kid and one on the way?
Yeah.
The dude is telling you, hey, man, like, I could have avoided so much heartache had I not listened to you.
Yep.
Instead, I listened to you, and it actually was destructive to me.
Mm-hmm.
Myron is like, but look, like, this is pragmatism at its finest. Like, the ends justify the means. Because he landed in a good place, Myron thinks that him smashing a bunch of women was the good and the ideal way to get there.
It was the necessary evil finding God, and
which is a big no.
Yeah.
That would make a woman not a good candidate for a long-term relationship. And I think half the game is figuring out which girls don't qualify for marriage versus which ones that do. And clearly you learned a skill set on how to become attractive and get women, and then you're able to identify the things that you like versus the things that you don't like. And that only comes a lot of times with experience. Now, look, if a guy can go ahead and, find a woman as a virgin and be attractive and be able to understand how to navigate that, that's great in modern times. But the reality is a lot of guys don't. And I mean,
you know why? Because a lot of guys don't go to church.
Come on.
Because a lot of guys have no healthy community around them. Because a lot of guys are chronically online. Because a lot of guys have no desire to become the type of person that they're supposed to be. So they're chronically online. They watch this sort of content, and then they wonder why they can't meet any good women.
Yeah.
It's like, when was the last time you went somewhere where there would be
Good
wholesome, healthy women
that actually want to be married?
that actually want to be married and want to be moms?
Come on.
Right? And so if you're not going to church, if you're not going to a young adults group, if you're not going to a Bible study, if you're not going to anything but where the pagans are indoctrinating you to be, again, lowest primal level urges, I just want to bone and spread seed, right? Then guess what you're going to get? You're going to get a bunch of women that behave that way.
Yeah.
Right? They're perpetually, the sad part for the women is the women that buy into this foolishness quickly discover something called the O gap. You heard of this, Zach?
Yeah.
It's the gap in hookup culture between women who participate in this foolishness and actually don't finish in these casual encounters, because shocker, women need more than just thrusting to get them to finish. They want intimacy and connection.
Crazy.
Most women, right? And so they found that women who participate in this sort of meaningless acts of intimacy.
Yep.
I feel icky even calling it intimacy because it's not intimate.
Yeah. It's like the wage gap, but for sex.
Yeah, yeah. And so women who participate, which by the way, I think the wage gap's a myth mainly, but women who participate in this are falling short and actually not excited about it or enjoying it. But oftentimes they get sucked into it and they think this is the way.
Oof.
Go ahead.
Story, you had to go through a lot of bad women to be able to identify your current wife as the one. So failures are good. They're good.
Yeah, failures, failures in a sense of socioeconomic or maybe.
Failures are good.
So he was just like, you failed and that was great.
That was great. And I hoped you'd fail.
I built your testimony.
I built your testimony. My gosh.
Even relationship failures could be good, but there's a difference with what I'm saying. I'm saying that we're warned against our soul. Jesus Christ commands us to marry one woman. That's it.
Sure.
And what you were causing me to do was sin against myself, and that's the point I'm trying to get to. It's a moral.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take personal responsibility, bro, because here's the reality.
No, I do. 100%.
Straight gaslighting, bro.
Yeah, straight. You know what he meant.
You got to take personal responsibility. He did. He wants you to take some responsibility for the poison you've been pushing.
He didn't like that he said, you caused me.
It's like, no. I get, but it's like the guy who got clean.
Yeah.
Confronting their former drug dealer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like, well,
hey, bro, I'm clean now.
Yeah.
God saved me. But have you thought that maybe the poison you were selling people is actually bad? And maybe you should stop selling this poison to people?
Yep.
You got to take personal responsibility, bro.
Come on, man.
Like, what?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't put a gun to your head.
Right.
Yeah, so
very publicly, I have in front of over 40,000 people. I've done that.
Yeah, great. But the point I'm trying to make is, I teach guys a skill set, right? If I give you a gun and you shoot yourself in the foot, is that my fault? If I taught you how to properly use it, how to disarm it, disassemble it, how to load the magazine in properly, all that. If I give you the skill set, then you shoot yourself in the foot, right? Is that really my fault?
But you're not giving him a firearm. You're giving him a firearm and saying, go kill 50 people.
Yeah. Yes, that's a better analogy.
It's a better
I was about to
analogy.
say, what is a better analogy? Because he didn't shoot himself in the foot. He did exactly what he was told to do.
You were told to go smash 50 women.
Yeah.
Like that's your prescription.
Yeah.
Just came out of your mouth.
Yeah. Did a school wasn't as fun as you said it would be. Like, it's essentially what, like, well, man, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just arm you with the skill set. Then you choose what you want to do with it. Now, obviously,
Well,
you
no,
wanted to
it's
go on
predatory,
you wanted to
because
go
men
toward
are
an
He said
sex
it's
escapade, which is,
predatory.
That's
So that's a good way to describe it.
I guess, fine. But the reality is, I armed you with the tools to become an attractive guy, and you utilize that. You can't come back and get mad
No,
and
you
say,
didn't argue
"Oh,
with that. I became attractive when I followed Jesus. That was it.
oh, okay." Now it's changing the story.
No, I'm not changing any story. It's one thing to be attractive in the sense of gaining sexual partners.
Come on.
But it's a completely different thing to be attractive to someone that wants to marry you and spend their life with you and have kids with you. Those are two completely different sexual attractions.
I mean, I can't believe that has to be said.
Yes, this is sad that we have to explain this to some of you.
But Myron really sitting there thinking that he armed this guy with the skills to get married. And he's like, I can't believe I have to say this, but no,
there's
those
a
are
difference.
completely different skill sets, my guy.
Yeah.
If I walk in here looking like Thor, I'm 6'2" and shredded, obviously I'm going to be attractive to women. But it doesn't mean that that's a relationship that produces value for me and my family.
And again, everyone is different, right? For you, it took some time, and you found God, and you shifted. But the reality is, I gave you the skill set, and then you choose what you want to do. That's up to you, and you made that decision, not me. I just taught you what to do,
exactly.
how to do it.
It's on me 100%. I'm not placing
Okay.
blame on you. But what I'm telling you, from someone that
And here's
listens
the other
to you,
thing,
I'm
too,
trying
that
to
you
let
gotta
know what
understand.
happens when you speak to people and tell them to do these things.
Here's the other thing, too. Like, now you're operating with 20/20 hindsight. You went through it. You experienced
Correct.
it. You
That's
know.
true.
A lot of guys need to get their hand burned sometimes to figure out how things work.
So I'm gonna give you the guide on burning your hand.
Experience is the lowest form of learning. Shot Benny Perez.
Come on.
You don't have to put your hand on the stove to know the stove is hot. You don't have to smash 50 women to know that there's women in the world that you need to stay away from.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. The issue is you go through 50 women and then your brain gets distorted because you're chronically online consuming this sort of stuff. And you start thinking all women are like the women that were on their podcast. And all women aren't like the women that were on their podcast. There are women like that, clearly, but they're not all women. They're not even most women, in my opinion. This is, again, the hasty generalization fallacy, is you take a small sample size of college-age women at pagan colleges indoctrinated with complete poison, and then you spread that out on a podcast where they go to promote their OnlyFans, and you go, see, this is the state of modern women.
Look at these women.
It's like, dog, have you been to church?
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you been to church? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even stamping all church women, because yes, there are women who have had really rough backgrounds that end up in church. There's women that have been trafficked that have ended up in church.
You can fix them. Just kidding.
No. Don't listen to Zach, okay? But there's a mass difference between what is being propagated within these conversations and the reality of even the number of partners. Like, most people have 6 partners in their lifetime or less, right? 10 if you're being conservative. And so even people in the world aren't walking through 50 people. Those are the outliers of the outliers. And the outliers of the outliers end up all having sex together. You understand?
funny.
You get how that works? So the people that have 10 plus body partners are the people that keep sleeping with people who have 10 plus body partners and racking up their partners, right? Most people aren't engaging in this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the issue, is it's always a small sample size that's spread out, and then you think all people are like that, and it distorts your perception of humanity. Yes, humanity is broken and sinful, and yes, some people definitely go off the rails, but most people aren't living their life at the club every weekend.
What did the basketball player Will Chamberlain say?
I've been with 1,000 women, but I much now would prefer to make love to one woman 1,000 times.
Come on, somebody.
That's what Chamberlain. I mean, who knows if he was really with 1,000 women? That's a lot of work. You know what I mean?
Because let's be honest, men are very stubborn.
Why do they need to do that? If they find a God-fearing woman, they wouldn't do half the stuff you're talking about.
Well, here's the thing: finding a God-fearing woman in today's day and age is a lot harder said than done.
Yeah,
right?
if you're at the club and listening to Fresh and Fit, correct.
Yeah, it's
if you're out bottle service every weekend at the club, at parties, yes, you're right. However, there's a whole nother world that exists out there, a whole new frontier that exists out there, that if you get aligned and connected and right with Jesus, all of a sudden,
if you're living for Jesus and you just go to church, and you want to be married and you're ready, all those things, it's not that difficult. And I'm probably gonna get flamed for this, But when I look at everybody around me, right, I'm just kind of like we know people that part of their testimony is like, oh, it took me quite a while to figure out what I wanted in life. But then when I got reconnected with my faith, started following Jesus and decided not to go through women, then at the age of whatever, 25, 26, I decided I'm going to go back to church. And then within like, I'm thinking of someone specific, within a couple years, married. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like one of those things that's like, there is kind of just a love Jesus, go to church.
Yeah, and let me just say this. With that, I'm not saying that everyone that meets someone in a church is going to marry a virgin and be a virgin themselves. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there's actually going to be way more virgins that get married in church than there are going to be people with 10 plus bodies.
Yes.
There's going to be way more people that maybe they had a girlfriend in high school, they weren't walking with Jesus, they were sexually active, and then like their second or third person that they're intimate with becomes their spouse.
Yeah,
right.
And punchline, virgin isn't cringe in church.
Right. It's not.
So if you got a clean past, you're like an ideal candidate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because even if you're a dude, you're an ideal candidate.
100%.
Because if you marry a stable woman, their dad is going to want to meet you.
Yeah.
And their dad and their big sisters and the people that are mentoring them are going to sniff you out. If you're a slut as a dude,
Yeah.
they're going to sniff you out.
Well, and no dude wants to go back and like finally meet the woman that he wants to marry now that he gave up his old ways and then has to like kind of confess to like, here's where I am, by the way. I'm not clean as I would like to have my past to have been, you know? And so like, even that's just a bummer of a conversation.
Yeah, it's a lot harder.
And so did everyone in my whole family.
Come on.
So it's not that hard.
Yeah, that's anecdotal from your perspective. But again, you learned a skill set, you were able to find a wife, and I'm happy about that. But you got to take a little bit of accountability here and understand that you basically got a loaded gun and shot yourself in the foot. You're trying to blame me for it.
No, I'm not blaming you. Like I said, I take accountability. There's a big difference there.
Okay.
But look, nothing against you. Like I said, I've hung out with Fresh 8 or 9 times recently. I love them, and I think your heart is in the right place. But I just wanted to give you from someone that actually listened to what you were saying to do, read your book, and it didn't work. That's all I was trying to do for you.
Well, actually, it did. You didn't notice it yet.
Oh,
Okay.
You're not going to be able to identify your wife and have been able to find her and figure out what characteristics you like and don't like, right?
It's just straight cope, bro. It's just sheer cope.
he's not even married.
You're not going to be able to identify, like, oh, man.
Yeah. You just don't know it worked for you yet.
My wisdom came from the Bible, not you. But I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Come on,
Okay.
somebody. That's it.
All right. Yo, shout out to that gentleman.
That's
I wish I knew his name, but I like it when people finally are confronted
Boom. Come on.
with the consequences of the kind of content they make,
Yes.
right? And so you think it's all peaches and cream and good stuff. It's like, no, man, there's a lot of people that bought into this red pill stuff, hook, line, and sinker, and are struggling and have made messes of their emotional health. You know what I mean? Or worse, like caught something. Got a woman pregnant.
Ugh.
You know what I mean? I mean, Fresh got a woman pregnant. Like, it's.
Did he have a baby?
No, I think she deleted it.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So this stuff is way darker. I'm glad that he finally was challenged by someone. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.